Next week, Counterlogic Gaming and today's winner are headed to the Spring Split Finals at the Mandalay Bay Event Center in Las Vegas, Nevada to determine the 2016 NA Spring Champion. Tickets are still available, so head over to lolesports.com/tickets and reserve your ringside seats today. However, welcome back. TSM have defeated expectations and started this series with a 2-0 lead over first seed Immortals. Needless to say, that wasn't expected, but they are looking dominant in this series so far. Given the fact that Immortals is going to have to run the table now 3 games in a row in order to get through the semifinals and into that final matchup, who are we looking at in particular that needs to step up here to take this game 3?
The Korean duos, Huni and Rainover. Turtle, Adrian, and Pobelter, they're playing exactly they are like in the regular season, but Immortals look so much weaker because, yeah, like Huni and Rainover, they get their backpack, put everyone on it, and then climb that mountain and get them that win.
And I actually did some research on Huni and Rainover's regular season and playoff victories. In the regular season, they are 48-6 in their career. They have an 89% win rate in the regular season. In playoffs, they are now 12-8. They have a 60% win rate, so they drop almost 30% in terms of their win rate when they come into playoffs, and that has to actually beg some questions about how they perform in playoffs and under this much pressure.
You know, Azale had an interesting point on the Cash Desk. He was saying that at a certain point, you know, they're outthinking themselves.
Yeah.
And Zyrene, when we were watching the game and through the break, you were talking a bit about, you know, you can't ignore the meta as well. At a certain point, if you're going to ignore the meta, then execution needs to match it. And it seems to be evident so far today that Huni and Rainover's execution isn't there for them to break the meta.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that these guys, you know, they crumble under pressure because they've made semifinals of Worlds, right? They actually have a lot of experience on the international stage. But right now, the execution is, you have to just go back to what was working before. We saw Adrian, he plays these defensive supports, which allows you to kind of sack bottom lane for your jungler and not have to go there.
Right.
So I expect more attention when you have Huni and Rainover on that top lane. I expect it early and often, but that's not what's happening here, and Svenskerin's beating Rainover to the punch.
Yeah, we've seen no Janna, we've seen no Soraka, we haven't seen the Rek'Sai.
Soraka's been banned out.
It was
rightfully.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Very, very good point. And Rek'Sai was banned out last game, not in the first game. But yeah, it definitely, you know, I have to wonder if in game 3, when everything's on the line, you just return to what you know. We'll see if that's what Immortals chooses to do. TSM are just 1 win away from the finals. And as we head to the Caches, let's hear from Doublelift on Immortals' strengths and weaknesses.
So they do have good timing with all of their fights, but I don't think they calculate those fights very well. They usually put themselves in really dangerous positions and just outplay people individually or because everyone on their team rotates first. I think their weakness is definitely they're really overconfident. They're super complacent. They just make a bunch of mistakes and there's a lot of openings to punish them. But because they don't get punished by worse teams, they just continue to make those mistakes.
And honestly, you can't really help but agree a little bit after watching TSM play these games so far. They had a good week to prepare for specifically Immortals. They knew if they won their quarterfinal, they'd be against this team, and all the prep has seemed to pay off. Doublelift keeps saying, we know these weaknesses. We know there are holes in the game plan, and they're exploiting them.
Yeah, I mean, also though, in Immortals' defense, you know, it's not just that they were doing this against weaker teams. They played TSM a couple times in the regular season as well, and it didn't go so hot for TSM. So,
but at the same time, TSM said that themselves that they sucked like 2 weeks ago when they lost to Energy. So they have gotten a lot better ever since the regular season ended. And they changed some of their mindset. But Graves goes first pick, and that's got to be top lane for Huni.
All right, so a different set of picks right here coming through. Graves was not banned anywhere in the series or picked, except for, sorry, it was picked by Svenskeren over in game 1, but this time around, instead of going for the early Corki, they go for the early Graves, hoping that will do much more for Immortals. And even though the bans match game 1's exactly even in order, it's a new first pick here for Immortals, hoping that changes things up.
Right, something that was interesting yesterday in the CLG Liquid series, even though Liquid didn't win, is they went back to their tried and true champions when they really needed to. They put Matt on to Bard. That was his best champion before he was a pro even. And for Rainover, his tried and true best champion is going to be Rek'Sai. Last game, TSM banned it, and here, even though Gragas is up and Svenskeren may be a better Gragas, they were thinking about denying it. I thought they were going to. If they go Gragas, I'm almost certain Rainover's going to go Rek'Sai.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like some level of mind game here. The random Rek'Sai ban in game 2 and the hover here in the third one, like trying to make him play Rek'Sai. It's like, oh, we're afraid of this. Really, we care about you playing Rek'Sai. Sometimes you can get away with that kind of a mind game here. What's also worth It's worth noting here that the Janna actually comes through. Wasn't played at all so far this series. It's been 2 Karma games in a row for Adrian. In fact, in the regular season, it was 2 more from him. But the Janna steal.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about comfort picks, right? What are the 2 characters that, were most comfortable for Adrian? It's Soraka, which is banned out, and it's the Janna, right? They may be saying, hey, these are the 2 that you want to play. Guess what? You don't get to in this final game, or potentially final game.
And Adrian's always talked about how versatile he is. You look back at his time on Team Impulse and people saying he was a one-dimensional Leona Alistair player. So, we know he has a history of playing those things, but not on Immortals. So they go for the range supporting Karma, and the Janna gets to go over to Yellowstar.
And it's really not just about what you have played; it's about what you're playing, right?
Recent.
No, exactly. You have to be super fresh on these champions because you're playing against some of the best players in the world that will exploit any weakness that you show.
And we'll see how much more TSM can exploit then. Immortals going back to a lot of what Game 1 looked like. Maybe it won't be a Lucian, but maybe just a Graves top instead. The rest of this comp can be pretty much picked up almost verbatim. Corki, though, off the table. But Karma Jhin is going to be the bot lane, same as it was over in Game 1. And I know Lokodoko said, don't have Wild Turtle play any more Jhin. I don't think his Jhin was bad by any means. I think it was more talking about not getting Lucian into the top lane in the first place. But Turtle's Jhin has been pretty good, I find.
Yeah, it's been all right. It's definitely been one of his lowest KDA or impact champions when he has played it. Regular season, he was 1-1 and 2 on it. And then he played it earlier in this series and was very lackluster as well. Turtle has excelled. You think about the biggest Immortals moments when he can fly into the fight, when he can go deep for those kills with Lucian or Callista. Jhin doesn't offer the same types of things. It is a much different playstyle for sure.
All right, well, unless TSM is trying to pull in Immortals here, we know exactly where the champions are going. They've left their jungle pick for last, which is a little bit curious to me that they'd be willing to blind pick their top laner just to delay what's coming into the jungle, but that's the case here. Maokai grabbed for Hansar, Callista AD carry for Doublelift, mid lane Corki for Bjergsen.
I've got to say, where's the Echo, Huni? This is supposed to be the counter for Maokai, right? He blind picked it. Echo is godlike. Huni was already playing Maokai previously in the season. Why not?
I think that would require them to put Graves in the jungle, and they really just want Huni on top lane Graves. No matter the matchup, it just doesn't seem like something Immortals wants to do. Once again, it is going to be one of those perplexing things of what happened to Echo in the Immortals vs. TSM series, the permanent presence in all other pro games.
Especially when it's not like, oh, he just never learned it. He already played it.
He's played it last
He's
night.
playing it last
He was
year,
doing
too.
great.
He's been playing it forever. The guy's godlike at it.
Well, it's not going to be the case here, though. It's going to be a fairly aggressive team, but it's going to be no tanks in the top lane. It's still the single tank composition, 3 games in a row on Karma for Adrian. To his credit, he can provide shield, so that may help a little bit. And also, Rek'Sai is a natural Cinder Hulk user compared to someone like Gragas, who is typically going for Runic Echo. So we might see a slightly tankier Reignover. Maybe it works out well for him, but the counter pick is going to be Lee Sin.
They
for
pick it
Svenskeren.
in the position that it could be a counter, but by no means is Lee Sin a counter pick to Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai is a counter pick to Lee Sin.
Yeah, no, I
in
agree.
My experience.
You just right-click on the Lee Sin if he Qs you, and it basically automatically will pop him up.
It'll automatically unburrow if he tries to take the second pit of the Q2.
Yeah, he should never be able to actually connect that Q, so you can deny that damage every time. So as far as jungle skirmishing, unless the Lee catches you unburrowed, in a super disadvantageous position, you should be winning those.
All right, well, seeing as the champs are locked in and they've already done their swap with double marks on both sides here, but a bigger tank from TSM, Hansar, on his second Maokai game of the series.
You know what I think the Lee Sin actually might be is just to pick on Huni, because I actually think that when you already have Maokai for exceptional gank assist, you take a super strong early ganker like Lee Sin, probably one of the very best in the game, you pair that with Maokai, and now you can just pick on this Graves.
Yeah, and what this series has really come down to so far is you had the top performers on TSM being Bjergsen and Doublelift during the regular season. They haven't done poorly. But then you have what was supposed to be the top performers for Immortals with their top lane and jungle, and they've been beaten by Hansar and Sven in those 2v2s. So I think that's going to be the focus once again in this game is those 2v2s top.
And that's why they waited for a while on the Lee Sin to see what the top lane was really going to be. Can we pick on it? Yes, we can. It's Graves. We'll see if that plan works out for TSM. You guys at home, we might be in the final game here. Tweet at Lali Sports, hashtag IMT win or hashtag TSM win. Will it be the 7th straight finals appearance for TSM, or will Immortals upset and crack the plot armor here in Game 3? TSM up 2-0. Can they close it out?
And I have a feeling there might be a couple TSM fans here that are looking for TSM to close this out. So it'll definitely be interesting to see if they're going to be able to do it.
They've been quiet for most of the year. It is hard to cheer for a team that loses half of their games. That has been what's happening for the regular season.
What? That's an objectively true statement.
I'm literally not trash talking.
Not even smack
Calm
talk.
down.
Yeah, he's TSM Jack, guys.
Yeah, come on.
We already know he's pulling for the team.
We know how this works.
What? All right.
Warning and stuff.
You know what's funny about the Rek'Sai versus Lee Sin matchup, actually? With Lee Sin being the blind monk, why is it that Rek'Sai is the one that actually has good echolocation skills? Right? Like, Reignover burrows as Rek'Sai and actually tracks things way better than Svenskeren ever could on Lee Sin. It's weird. I feel like it's out of the lore.
Oh, man.
That's because Rek'Sai is an alien queen, I think, and
A Void Queen?
Void
yeah,
Queen,
which is
there you
kind of
go.
an
So
alien,
you
honestly.
get special powers.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
And Lee Sin's just a blind dude who's really good at karate.
It's really... or Muay Thai, as it is in this game.
Close enough.
Some people have a bone to pick with that one.
You can tweet at Ricehill with your pick bones. Either way, we can look at the matches here. Obviously, Warlords is going to be for Huni. And I think Graves is just a way better version of top lane Lucian as far as what Huni was trying to do. I think he's going to be going the offensive build as well. Death Dance, Phantom Dancer into maybe an Infinity Edge. That's what he did last time he played top lane Graves. But he will be much more durable with that build than he was on Lucian. So if Maokai does try to jump on him, he'll win that duel, where he was losing it as Lucian.
And they have a solid mage in the mid lane as well, so in the mid game, Immortals have different options available to them. We will once again be in matched lanes here, and last game, TSM won both their lanes and got both side outer turrets in the matched lanes game, so we'll see how well they can turn it on this time around.
Yeah, this is going to be really tricky, though, because I feel like the Jhin Karma lane can have a pressure advantage as well as the Graves Maokai lane. So it's going to be 2 out of 3 losing lanes, and there's not a real pressure advantage between Lee Sin and Rek'Sai as champions. So TSM is at a bit of a disadvantage, I think, early in this lane phase.
Yeah, I actually think that Karma Jhin has a massive advantage over this lane. Janna is inherently, I think, pretty weak to poke. It's something where you can't heal back up after it. You have to pre-shield the poke. That's really your only chance. And you can see they're already back down to like half HP, getting pushed under the turret. And Jin's able to follow up on that poke. If Karma lands a Q, he can hit the W, get some free poke in.
And you're seeing that happen pretty much a lot right here. Doublelift has already burned his first potion there. And I really like that Adrian can also provide the movement speed to make sure that that fourth attack does come through. Could feel good for Immortals. This 2-on-2 right now pretty close to equal. Small CS lead for Turtle and Adrian together, but not the end of the world.
And as you said, though, it's about the potions, right? Already the potion gone for Wild Turtle, and 2 potions already used to the 0, for Yellow Star versus Adrian. We'll see if they can continue to capitalize on that, though.
Yeah, I mean, top lane focus or duo lane focus.
Yeah.
Or top laner focus or duo lane focus.
Sure.
So far it's been actually Svenskeren starting in the jungle of Reignover before going to impact the lanes. But in this Lee Sin vs Rek'Sai matchup, he has a slower first clear. And if he does go for a counter jungle, there's a very good chance Reignover sees him just with the Tremor Sense. So it's a much more uphill battle than TSM has had in either of the games. Game 1, they had a vast superiority in team fight composition. Game 2, they had the jungle pressure advantage. Here, it's much more nuanced where they could potentially find their edges.
Ooh, and look at this, an early edge going to Pobelter as Reignover, by ending his jungle clear at his blue buff at 4 minutes, is going to donate that one over. Now, this does mean that TSM can right away say, hey, Rek'Sai was left jungle, probably recalled, probably started bot side. It's actually pretty easy to track the kind of route that Reignover would take. The only camps that should be up right now are Krugs. This is something that TSM can play off of, actually.
Yeah, definitely. But, I mean, a couple minutes into laning, we're already seeing a few hundred gold ahead. 500 gold up from Mortals without First Blood, without any kills, is actually very significant at this point in the game. I mean, top lane is going okay. Huni's definitely ahead. But, bot lane, already 10 CS up ahead is pretty significant.
Definitely agree right here. So some of it's being pushed lanes, but some of it definitely advantageous matchups. And I think down the line, these are all pretty damn good. Keep in mind, Bjergsen did have to go cleanse because he is up against this Lysandre. But even if the one-on-one is safe, it means teleport's up for this list.
Yeah, but this bottom lane is in a bad place. Not even talking about the teleport that could be hitting. The wave is pushed to Huni's side, and that advantage is only going to extend because Reignover is down there to give support.
Ooh, not a good play by Wild Turtle. Took a turret shot just to do a little bit of damage.
Ooh.
Yellow Star, though, oversteps just the same. And a couple of slight misplays in the laning phase here, but there's enough regen that both should be able to stay alive through it. Turtle not actually using his potion. I think he really should here to stay at full HP in case Lee Sin comes to gank him. But now, Svenskeren and Reignover see each other. Level 5 Lee Sin. to the 4 of Rek'Sai with Bjergsen here as well. It means it will be counter jungling.
Yeah, Bjergsen is able to get in there, and Svenskeren trying to carve out an advantage for himself. And we talked about how this is a pretty good matchup for Rek'Sai, but Svenskeren not shying away whatsoever, and he's trying to assert his dominance, and I like it. Based on the first 2 games, he's had Reignover on the back foot, and keep going for it.
He's going to go for this one right here on the bot side, actually. Just a quiet little trade there. Hanser healing up with the passive, and Huni losing some health.
Yeah, and I think Svenskeren's really going to have to play out of his mind this game for TSM to win, because the lanes themselves are not going very well for TSM, and this puts Immortals in that incredibly familiar situation of being ahead of their opponent. We heard Doublelift talking about how when watching Immortals in the regular season, he'd see them make all these questionable plays that they would easily get away with because they either rotated faster or just had a gold lead. Well, Immortals really knows their limits when they do have a lead, and they know how to press through it home really, really hard. And if these lanes stay like they are for the next 5 to 10 minutes, that 500 gold lead is going to turn into a 2-0 turret lead, as well as a whole bunch more gold. And it's Svenskeren who is really the one with the power to stop that.
We'll see if Lee Sin can do that then, as he is recalled one more time for the Tracker's Knife and a double longsword. But look at that. 5 people could be top lane real quick here. Pobelter flash W into the ulti, into the simple first blood. Root lands on a double. If he has nowhere to go, exhausted, killed off by Wild Turtle. Pobelter gets a shield. What a good start for Immortals.
And you could see how unprepared TSM was for that play in general. As the 5 people were killing the 2 people of TSM, both TSM solo lanes were channeling recall. So they weren't even saying like, oh, they're pushing top, they're going to gank top, we got to push lanes. They're now pushing lanes reactively, but they had no idea that was coming.
Yeah, and I mean, bad gets worse for this 2v2. As you can see, Wild Turtle, 64 CS to 35 and a kill. I mean, this is going to be a pretty brutal advantage.
I'm honestly surprised TSM changed their champs locked up so much. The Janna coming in, making this bot lane so difficult. You get to see how easy it was to collapse on this.
Yeah, well, it's surprising to me that Pobelter was able to walk up there without having to use teleport, and his mid lane wasn't taking any turret against Corki, who's supposed to be lane bullying him. So credit to Pobelter for making that roam. But it's just a continuation of the constant lane pressure that Immortals has been under. They don't have ward coverage on the map. They haven't been able to get advantages in their 1v1s or 2v2s, and Immortals is looking like the Immortals we expected for the first 7 minutes of this game.
And you even mentioned ward control right here. Yes, Svenskeren has his Tracker's Knife in already, but Reignover went Hunter's Machete into Sightstone Swifties. Like, this Rek'Sai is going to be everywhere, giving vision to his entire team. Immortals can completely stranglehold this game.
And I think it's actually super intelligent. He doesn't have to carry the game. His team is already smashing these lanes. All you have to do when your lanes are smashing is ward up. Show them where the other jungler is. If you know where the jungler is, you know when you can go aggressive, you know when you have to play safe, because when you're this far behind, the only thing you can do is hope for a gank.
No, TSM can still hope for one. Maybe it'll happen for them. No root quite coming out here in this one, but Kalista pushes the wave and is still down 19. It's super rough right here. Bjergsen looking for the play, but he's on top of a ward while doing so. And it means there's no chance at an outplay right here. Sheen plus part of a Phage. Not the scariest build so far, as the package will soon run out. Rod of Ages for Pobelter will be completed pretty soon, and that will be a nice beginning of the stacking game here. Death Stance will obviously be the first item for Huni, as he is winning his lane as well. Never has had to leave it, just winning the matchup against Maokai.
And I do also kind of want to point out, this is the first game where Immortals isn't trying to be super creative in champion select.
Yeah.
Karma was the 3rd support for Adrian in the regular season. Top lane Graves makes the most sense for Huni top. And Rek'Sai has really felt like Reignover's best champion throughout the whole regular season. So this is more so the lineup that got them to 17-1.
Yeah, and I mean, Lissandra as well is something that Pobelter has played so much over the years. So definitely saying he's coming with as well, but he could be caught out here.
Very much alone. Does self-ult to block the back half of the Lee Sin Q. Flash knockout comes in from Rek'Sai, but it's still Svenskeren who stays alive.
And Hanser, using the TP there, actually had to cancel it. Huni didn't use his at all, and down in the bot lane, Huni almost has this turret dead and now has the TP advantage.
Really good things for this 1v1 on the bot side here. Huni feeling a lot better on this Graves. He was up against Maokai as Lucian in game 1, but now a different matchup and better play so far from him.
Picking up the cull as well. I mean, he's pretty confident. Not something you really see on the Graves, but working towards the Death Stance. He's already smashing this lane, so when he picks up the turret and catches it on the cull, that's going to be a massive gold advantage.
Maybe the cull could also just be for a little bit of extra sustain in the lane, make it so Maokai can really not touch him at all, since Got the Dorns and
Warlord's
Scepter for
Bloodlust,
Stealing
Amp
Warlord's
Scepter.
Bloodlust already.
And now a tower
Oh,
dive,
here we come.
actually.
TP advantage.
Empowered Shield comes in, easy route on a double. They target him, and that's got really nowhere to go in this Callista. Which way will Janna run? Away, actually. He knows he would die if he tried to. Oh,
The juke!
the dodge on the ulti. Hoonie's teleport does not do actually anything except maybe burn a summoner heal. Double Lift and Yellow Star stay alive, but they burn 4 summoners, and top lane turret will go down.
And that was actually really dicey for Turtle. I believe he still has his heal available, but he was getting pretty close to being able to die to that Ren.
Yeah, scary stuff for him, but thankfully does stay alive. Rek'Sai comes down right over, makes sure mid lane stays afloat. No gank comes through for Svenskeren. Haunter's Maokai did have some free time on the bot side, though, so that turret actually
Gets
takes
turret first.
actually
trying
all
to
of its
get it.
life.
Yeah, that's very surprising that he was able to get that because he had almost no head start on that turret, but some big waves crash in, and the opportunity cost of that Huni teleport actually is definitely
High.
not worth it.
Yeah.
He was crushing Haunter, and it gives Haunter some time to stack up some armor now.
I really have to give Haunter some props here, actually. I mean, yes, Huni did TP away there, but he stayed very even on CS. He actually gets the turret first in what I think is a very bad matchup for Maokai early on. And, this is something where everyone's pretty much expecting Huni to just smash him, right?
Right.
And so Huni gets a good matchup, and Haunter is actually playing very even.
Really good stuff for him. And he's going to probably need to be a really big factor in this game. He's one of the sole tanks on this team. It's, of course, Warrior, Enchant, Lee Sin here for Svensker. And so Maokai, the sole tank, and he was the sort of big factor in their Game 1 win when Immortals had a huge lead over TSM early game at the beginning of the series. But Haunter can maybe pull them back here in Game 3 as Immortals do have a bit of a lead. The bot lane outer turret was traded equal. And now it's a mismatch over there as Haunter is alone against 3. They put the teleport ward down in case they need Pobelter. And here he comes. Svenskeren over the wings, and Rainover has to get away. He will drop aggro and stay alive.
Haunter barely took any damage from that dive, and it's a 2v4 re-engage.
And nothing happened to him at all. Just stays afloat, doesn't care at all.
And that is going to be some flashbacks to Game 1.
yeah.
Right? They have some PTSD over this map guy. They're just like, oh, God.
Oh, God, we can't kill him. He had completed the Sunfire Cape, right? And it was a BF Sword Jhin, obviously no armor penetration this early in the game, Karma Root, and a Rek'Sai who rushed a Sightstone. So the damage is actually just not there, even though you're thinking in your mind, like, oh, yeah, it's a lane swap situation, a 3v1. But this is a 13 minutes against a fully tanked up Maokai. So at first glance, it looked like he was going to be dead, but upon further inspection, that dive had very low chance of working.
I think it's like, in that 3v1, they thought they didn't need Pobelter's TP. Right. Then they, oh crap, we realized we need to actually have this damage, and it was too late. So they actually waste the TP and don't kill him. So pretty critical play there. It's windows like this that TSM is going to need to try to get back in.
Exactly. It's back-to-back failed teleports by Immortals. First one got Haunter back into the game, and TSM's first turret killed the game. Second one just gave up lane pressure. Pobelter, who was 1-0-1, is now falling rapidly behind Bjergsen.
This is definitely more mistakes than a 17-1 regular season team should be making in the playoffs when their play is supposed to be cleaner. They've had 3 weeks to practice and prepare for this semifinal matchup. Obviously 1 week since they knew it was going to be TSM. But yeah, a lot of mistakes coming out this series from Immortals. This game has been their cleanest, but they need to be able to secure this. No more mistakes for Immortals if they want to make finals.
I gotta say, I'm a little surprised. Yellow Star hasn't been roaming around too much. And to see him grow Mobies over Lucidity, which I just think is so strong on Janna. Especially for the summoner cooldown reduction for your exhaust, as well as just hitting a high amount of CDR. If you can hit 45% CDR on Janna, it's pretty godlike. You can basically have permanent shields.
You have a half-second downtime on your attack damage buffing shield. It's pretty, actually, incredibly strong. I love it on Janna, but. Well, not the case for him, at least not for a while here. Mid lane, early pressure. Once again, we're seeing Immortals group up as 4 to 5 champions, 14 minutes into the game, and look to invite TSM to not make the rotation. In this case, they kind of don't, actually. Quite a few auto attacks going down on this turret, down to 2/3 already. A little bit of poke on Svenskeren, but you can see Bjergsen putting some damage back himself, and as mid lane falls down to half HP, it's Double If forced to recall back by his, I assume, Hurricane? Yes. And now decide which lane he needs to reinforce. And it's mid.
I feel like we've been in this situation before where we're saying TSM needs to stall out a little bit from this early game turret pushing from Immortals. They no longer have the triple marksman like they did in Game 1, but they still have 2, and this time a slightly better team fighting composition than they did before as well.
Yeah, if there's a misrotation by TSM, Lissandra goes in, Pobelter is not shy about diving, and you pop someone off right there. The early attack damage from the marksman will mean turret damage is there if TSM misrotates, but this time around it's TSM in the mid lane first, knocking mid lane outer down to half themselves.
Yeah, I mean, people talk a lot about the Sivir Lissandra, you know, that kind of hard engage comp, and Karma's kind of your mini Sivir in this case, and you do have the follow-up engage from the curtain call from Jhin, so it's kind of an adaptation on that. And I do think even if it goes late, you always have the potential of getting those picks, and their team fight's definitely pretty solid because, you know, people like Doublelift are going to always have to be very scared until they can get their QSS about the single target lockdown from Lissandra, and that's exactly what you want. You want the point-and-click CC against a character like Kalista.
Totally agree, and it's going to be something that Solo Mid will have to respect here. Right now, though, they're able to take a solo or a duo play at this bot lane Dragon, and looks like there's going to be no contest here. So Dragon #1 of this game will go cleanly to TSM.
That's really impressive, actually. Svenskeren gets the red buff steal from Reignover and then doesn't get punished for it in the slightest. Normally, when Reignover would get counter jungler, you take an objective, he's straight into your jungle and taking your stuff.
That might have been intentional.
Cycle for the Trinity Force proc on a better auto attack.
He's just giving them a false sense of
Or he
security.
could just rocket the minion and get them.
Yeah, I mean, he actually missed the caster. He should have R'd the caster, but sometimes you actually want to miss skill shots with Trinity Force users to, like, last it properly. For any novice Corkies out there, actually, you use rank 1 Gatling gun for only about half the time. You want to turn around between last hits, because you only want to barely damage caster minions. You'll actually break your last hits if you leave the whole Gatling gun on them. So occasionally you'll see like really good Corkies will turn around and just like not deal damage. And that's intentional.
Yeah, it's kind of similar as Rumble with Flame Splitter.
Right, exactly the same thing for him.
Yeah. But, you know, you got to say, Immortals, with the lead that they started with, it has not compounded. It has not gotten any bigger. You know, they were absolutely smashing the lanes in the early game, and this gold lead has become kind of stagnant. And as you get further into the game, you know, that 2K gold lead, it starts to mean less and less and less and less. And they had that 2K gold lead at, like, what, like 7 minutes or something like that?
Super early.
And so, you know, in the next 10 minutes of game, it hasn't increased.
That could be a concern if Immortals are running out of steam. Their train could come to a stop, and they'd have to battle for 3rd place instead of 1st place this weekend. Quick jump over the wall, but Volter's going to be totally fine. No hard CC to really activate by TSM.
Yeah, and I'm really going to be curious to see what happens as the Maokai vs. Graves matchup evolves later in this game. Like when Hunter gets a Frozen Heart versus when Huni has a Phantom Dancer and Infinity Edge. Like, who will win that duel in the long term? You think it's going to be Graves just because Maokai's not going to have the damage to kill him, but Hunter is really not behind in CS whatsoever, and with a little bit of assistance, Hunter would give the CC to be able to kill him. So a lot of this duel, this super slow duel, is going to be dictated by Reignover and Svenskeren, or even Bjergsen and Pobelt. They're trying to turn the tides of that fight with teleports or packages.
Yeah, in my experience, a lot of it comes down to the itemization of the Graves. If he decides to get some MR, you know, on top of his Death Stance, if he does go Maw, I think it's going to go pretty heavily in his favor, especially when you consider that Hanser is building much more for the team fight. You know, he's picked up a Cowl that's not going to help against the Graves.
Meanwhile, topside fight. Ooh, good flash away. Reignover would have gotten kicked back to the team by Svenskeren. Now the cleanse pop by Bjergsen to stay alive, but there's still a clock coming in into the root, but the nasty helps him stay alive. He gets out of the root himself. TP in from the Maokai. There's the root. There's the first kill on a Reignover, and it's going to be back on for another kill. Phobos are going down, and oh, you're kidding me!
He's alive!
He's alive! The curtain call is in, and can he get any meaningful damage? Not really. Wild Turtle misses most of the shots, does nothing good, and TSM finds a 2 for 0. Now the re-engage. Huni overextends into 4 people and just dies for it for no reason.
Wastes his flash on top of it. TSM coming up huge, catching kill after kill after kill, and you can smell the desperation on Huni re-engaging on Bjergsen there. Everyone's still around. He wastes his flash, gives up his life, and TSM are looking good.
One of the biggest knocks about Huni throughout his career is when he dies once or has something go wrong, he's got to get it back right away, and he pushes really hard to try and make that play. A lot of the time it works and leads to a lot of victories, but this time it backfired, and TSM is right back in this game.
They are, but the turrets are at least traded, so Immortals keeps the gold in their favor, if only slightly.
Yeah.
They turn back into the mid lane, but now Svenskeren says, you know, Reignover, I'm not afraid of you in the slightest. And Rek'Sai does quickly leave the jungle. Reignover is going full tank this time around. Randuin's Oma going to be his second major purchase here after the Cinderhulk enchant.
Yeah, this whole play was started by Svenskeren getting aggressive, and Reignover is actually able to flash so he doesn't get kicked backwards, which makes Immortals want to turn the fight. But Pobelt ults the guy with Cleanse right away instead of Svenskeren on the backside, so Bjergsen's able to escape, and that buys time for Maokai to teleport in. Maokai's teleport presence is much higher than that of Graves. Watch Huni walk around the back of this fight. He does pretty much nothing, tries to ult over the wall to get Svenskeren, but the ult from Yellow Star is just clutch enough to save it. And you compare teleport usage there between Hanser and Huni, and that is really what turned that fight 2-0. Now 3-0 because Huni decides to extend it after they lost.
Yeah, and Pobelter caught out again here. Could be going down.
Self-ults to heal himself a little bit, but he's still got nowhere to go. Quick knock-up, and the kill goes through Svenskeren.
Oh!
1-0-1. Great ulti in by Double to keep Yellow Star safe and running away.
Just
Heard
got to
call?
stand in front of him.
Well, it's still going to be some damage on the Svenskeren. It's W up. That doesn't matter. The final shot came through. He stayed alive on this Lee Sin and outwalks TSM with another kill.
And I mean, the TP and Graves, you know, to your point, Jack, you know, it can be threatening. It's at least more threatening than the TP and Lucian, right? But the thing is, Maokai, you can TP in very, very deep and really disrupt things. You have to really mess up your TP a lot more on a Maokai for it to go bad than you do on the Graves.
You see the kind of damage up what was available here. Pobelter in that last team fight just got a couple of spells up and had to run away. Bjergsen, even though he was the ulti target, just got so much out.
Yeah. I mean, that's the power of the cleanse. You know, Pobelter got a little bit greedy for TSM's mid laner. Probably could have just taken the kill on Svenskeren and walked out of there.
That would have been much, much better. Absolutely agree with that one. So bad target selection by Pobelter, good capitalization by TSM. And now with the gold almost exactly equal, we need to see how well these teams can play the mid game. Objectives equalized here. It's now on the gameplay.
Yeah, the mid-game decision-making, the teamwork, something that TSM had been very weak at throughout a lot of the regular season, but they have picked together in the playoffs. Immortals, obviously at 17-1, have had fantastic teamwork. Everything clicked from day one. That's something Immortals said. A lot of these teams that get players coming from all over need a lot of time to kind of find their groove. Like Alliance, when they're the European LCS super team that one year, started 0-4, ended up actually winning the split. But Immortals here, it seemed like everything would work from day one. Yeah. This is really the largest amount of adversity they've ever had to face, and they have to overcome it in about 10 minutes in between games in order to solve the problem.
I mean, most adversity they've had to face by far. You know, one bright spot, though, for Immortals, Turtle is very far ahead still. He still has 45 CS. He has his 2 completed items, so this is a very strong Jhin. You know, Immortals certainly are far from out of this game. They certainly are able to still win fights, but they just have to come together and play as a team. They need to play to their strengths, and they need to stay calm.
I think calm is something that they can definitely stay here. This is a winnable game on both sides as long as they play it right. Recall from Yellow Star, some poke on towards Bjergsen. Rainer looking to make his first major play in a while. Looks for the root. They do hit someone to Svenskeren. No knockback found just yet. Now goes in, but there's just not really any follow-up. Yellow Star back on the Rift.
It's a little tricky to engage onto a team with Janna. That's something Immortals hasn't really had to deal with this year because they've always been the ones that have the Janna. And I think calm is the right word for it, but they also have to make sure that they don't play scared. Something that has made Immortals the team that they are with the 17-1 regular season is how relentless they are and how aggressive they are and how they never give you time to catch up to the play. But now would be the first time they could ever be playing scared. Who has ever gone 17-1 in the regular season and lost the first game of the playoffs? That's never happened to a team in the LCS before. So that fear is something they have to be able to vanquish from the back of their minds if they want to play like the team that got them here, 17-1 Immortals.
Yeah, definitely calm but not scared. You have to you know, take a read of the situation, be willing to pull the trigger, especially with an engage comp, you know, like the Lissandra, right? You have to be willing to make that snap judgment and go for the kills, but you can't do it too early. If you pull the trigger at the wrong time, or you just get scared that nothing's happening, you need to make something happen, it can definitely go bad for you, especially with the Maokai, who has that counter engage.
Here it comes. Teleport from
Lissandra.
Lissandra.
Adrian losing a ton of HP, and now the push in towards the Rex side. Who goes for the flash knockup, and here come the teleports. Who's going to survive? Who's going to die? Oh, Pobelter gets to do nothing at all. Gets popped and destroyed. A trade back on a Yellow Star, though. 4 versus 4. And here comes the Maokai. Hanser's in, and Rainover will go down despite the knockout coming through. A 2-for-1 in favor of TSM. Now the flash engage toward Wild Turtle, and Bjergsen gets revenge on his ex-teammate. Another trade back by Huni, trying to stay alive, getting the shield from Adrian, but he's still left alone. The flash means nothing. A double kill for Bjergsen.
And they go for the fight, and it doesn't work. TSM stays close in the game. They're now dead even in gold as they try and push mid after a 4-for-2 fight.
And this was with Maokai TPing in almost in the bot lane. He had to walk across the entire bottom side jungle to get to that fight. And Immortals, you know, they overstayed. How did they not know that the Maokai is coming in?
I don't know, but it was certainly a mistake there, and it means that TSM have finally tied the gold back up and now gotten a small lead for themselves. Mentioned the farm leads Immortals had before, but now the kills have sort of circumvented that.
Yeah, and I need to see the teleport from Lysandre here. Rainover actually backs away, and they try and combo onto double and yellow, but Pobelter just doesn't get a good ultimate off in that fight.
Yeah, and I'm
not even sure what
the Maokai TPing in at the very, very bot side by the red buff, and he may have actually been trying to interrupt Huni, because Huni was actually TPing to the fight from there, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, really weird fight. I didn't get to see where the Lysandre ult came
I didn't
up
see it
because
either.
it went on a cooldown. All right, maybe he Lysandre ulted as Yellowstar got pulled in by the Fates call, so it looked like it disappeared or something.
Maybe, yeah,
Something
I'm not
really
sure,
strange.
but it certainly went on cooldown. I never saw the particle. I'd love to see that one afterwards with a bunch of rewind
I'll check it
tools.
again, you guys.
And I'm sure someone will tell us as well. I'm sure analysts are looking at it, and we'll get something in our ears about what exactly happened. But
And I mean, you gotta say, Bjergsen really being the beneficiary of a lot of this. He's up, 50 plus CS, 304, has his Trinity Force and his IE completed, and he's building into that multiplier item. So he's gonna be an insane damage threat in these team fights.
oh, certainly is. And speaking of insane damage threats, yeah, Bjergsen did almost 5K in that one. He has constantly had such insane uptime. And I mean, he's been consistently the best player on TSM for, what, 3 years running now, and is actually just doing incredible work here. Nice smite by Svenskeren, gets the red buff yet again, just adding to the number of buffs taken away from Immortals throughout this year.
Yeah, he definitely ulted Janna, and Yellowstar did get blown up in that fight. Huni ultimate comboed it right away, so that's why we didn't get to see the Entomb for that long. This time it goes for double lift.
Plenty of damage. The knockup's going to be landed there, and is it going to be enough damage? The ulti in. Now the knockup to come through from Fate's call. Red means a kill, but the root will land in a curtain call. Can he block enough damage? No! Wild Turtle snipes him down to keep his team in the game. Now the push in for Yellowstar, who has almost nowhere to go. The root's going to land. The snipe through, and Adrian does have to take the kill, but it's a 2-for-1 in favor of Immortals to try to claw back in.
Yeah, and that was an example of some accelerated gameplay that Immortals had thrived in all year. So you see some mistakes, but you're forcing the decision so quickly. Doublelift and Yellowstar tried their damnedest to make the outplay happen, but Immortals just had more people there. They kept coming. They rotated faster. That's the type of play they need more of.
The Turtle didn't even have to rotate. He's Jin. He wasn't even on the screen ever. He just shot bullets from the base practically. Quicksilver Sash is now in for Doublelift. So you've got Hanser, who is too tanky to die. You've got now a Dead Man's Plate and a Spectre's Cowl on the Lee Sin, plus even Merc Treads, Cleanse and Bjergsen, QSS on Doublelift, and Fate's Call for Yellowstar. There's not great targets anymore for Pobelter unless Cleanse is on cooldown.
And here we do have that replay, and Bjergsen, or sorry, the mid laner is not there for TSM, so Pobelter is actually going very aggressive here with Rainover. Fate's Call comes out, and they are able to get that kill. But a really nice W root there from Wild Turtle off the screen, and then the Fate's Call coming in, able to pick him off. And
What a good prediction.
Rainover was very high on health, but those spears were stacking. A couple more autos, he may have actually been able to pop them. So it was a lot closer than it looked, but on the back end of that fight, Yellowstar flashing out was a little bit ambitious. I think he probably should have just held on to the summoner, so a bit of a nitpick there, but still, somebody's got to know when to cut your losses.
And I think it was really aggressive of Doublelift to be dashing back towards Lysandre when maybe he could have dashed backwards since Yellowstar still had the Monsoon to peel. But if Immortals didn't get the assistance of the other people, I think TSM actually wins that 2v2.
They do.
You can't fault them too hard for trying to go aggressive.
Plenty left, a ton of attack speed. Pobelter only has so much damage to deal. Svenskeren going for the third Dragon in a row now for TSM in this game. Our Dragons have actually been stacking up pretty consistently for TSM most of this series, and not always just because they have map control. It's just something that they've actually controlled pretty well overall. This Dragon will slowly go down, and now the movement speed buff is on for TSM. The rotations are easier.
Yeah, when I was looking through the stats from Immortals in the regular season, the Dragon was actually the one thing they didn't seem to be good at taking. Or they just didn't care about it. Like, for a team that was so dominant and had giant gold leads in every game and only lost a single one, you'd expect them to also have the highest Dragon control of teams just because they're winning the game a lot of the time. But that wasn't the case. They were third in the LCS in Dragon control, getting about 60% of the overall Dragons. And it's not like TSM was above them. TSM was below them for sure. But it just goes to show that Immortals wasn't a heavily Dragon-focused team. And TSM has been able to pick up a few easy ones this game, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the top lane, we do see Hanser scaling up pretty hard now. He is picking up a lot of his key items. He almost has his Spirit Visage. He's got the Frozen Heart, the Sunfire Cape as well. Looking to have those 3 completed tank items is just going to make him so hard to kill. And as you said, it just becomes tougher and tougher for Pobelter. Who does he even go for at this point? With Merc Tread's Cowl on the Lee and just almost a full spirit visage on this Maokai. It's pretty rough.
Well, you can play the peel game. You still got double marksman that will eventually burn down a Maokai, and this time Rainover is a real tank. Cinder Hulk plus the Randuin Zome and Spectre's Cowl nearly turned into the next item as well, so not too bad frontline-wise for Immortals. They also have plenty of Karma Shields to come through to keep that thing afloat, so a dedicated 5-on-5, not the worst thing, and I don't think it's too bad if Pobelter just sits there and holds the mid line.
Yeah, and the split pushing from Immortals is going to be becoming a little dangerous here. 312 CS on Ahuni, one away from Wild Turtle for being highest on his team. Ooh. Nice tunnel by Rainover. And he's gone for the Maw of Malmortius again against Haunter, so that means he's going to be winning that duel straight up against Maokai, and unless TSM forces fights quickly, I feel like Huni's just going to be able to take turret after turret in the split push.
Yeah, certainly will be strong in that, but we do have to keep the gank assist in mind, and we do have to keep in mind the team fight impact of tank versus tank, because the Maokai is going to add so much more than the Rek'Sai in these 5v5 fights, as Rek'Sai gets outscaled very heavily, I feel.
Yeah.
Not quite Maokai status for sure. We'll see how much more Rainover can do then. As Huni has the pickaxe, which could be Infinity Edge, which would be plenty of crit damage, or it could just simply be Last Whisper and do Lord Dominic's or Mortal Reminder to cut through tanks harder. We just got the Spirit Visage completed for Hansard just now, and Huni's going to get the easy blue buff steal on the bot side. Plenty of CDR as well, and the champions keep scaling up. This game within 500 gold, certainly remaining very close, and you can kind of tell both these teams realize how important this game is. This is a 3-0 for TSM, and it's survival for Immortals, and these teams getting a little bit more risk-averse, taking slightly fewer chances than they were earlier in the series.
Yeah, and you gotta say, going into these late game scenarios, the teamfights can be so explosive. And as the death timers scale up, get longer and longer and longer, one team fight can mean so much more. So the teams definitely do get more and more nervous, I think, as you get to these late game stages.
Especially when you're in a series clinching game. It's no longer game 1 or 2. The next win could send a team to the finals and land the other team in the third place match. So add to the fact the death timers are super long, and one team fight that happens in one side of the team's jungle gives you enough time to just end the game straight up, but that actually means it gives you enough time to end the series.
Yeah.
We'll see if TSM can do just that as they run around the map, dodging away from plants, killing pink wards, and looking to play for Baron control right now. So that top middle of the map seems to be the goal for these guys as they play for the wards as well as they can. Rainover actually missed the brush with the green ward. Shouldn't mean too much for him though, can still track Baron movements. Knock up on his fence Garen means almost nothing as Green looks to move forward. W misses from Wild Turtle, and we can see Huni in a battle with Haunter. He actually chose to give red buff away to the Jhin, and now he's going to get jumped on 1 versus 3. He could not make this outplay happen. He will get popped.
Yellow
and
Star.
Suddenly, Pobelter's here, looking for the big play. Self-ult, but now comes the rest of the team. It's a 5v4. Pobelter buying as much time as he can. It's going to be the root on his Svensker, but they're not going to get any more damage. Now Haunter in the front lines nearly gets dropped down, but he's going to stay alive in this one. Now it's Bjergsen running away, back into Rainover, a second kill, trade it back on a Yellow Star, another route in for Haunter, but they're gonna trade it back in, and now the damage on towards Wild Turtle, it's a bunch of kills, and it's an ace! A triple for Bjergsen!
What a brilliantly played team fight by TSM. Svensker dancing around on the back lines. The front line staying protected by Yellow Star, by the Maokai. Haunter doing his limits perfectly, and they're going for Baron.
Those are the team fight mechanics TSM was hoping for when they put this roster together. But it all started because Huni was getting aggressive in that split push, and he was going to slowly wear Haunter down. But that's one of the reasons you can pick a Maokai into a Grace. If you get help, you guarantee that your help has time to get there with the CC he has. Because of the position of the fight being so far back in TSM's side of the map, it's not like they could end the game off that, but they could at least take the Baron.
And with all the damage dealt with TSM here, Immortals wanted to go in for the 4v5. That ulti is really slick because it stops the first stun in for Pobelter, I think.
So essentially what happened is Pobelter was taking his claw in, and he wanted to use a cycle of spells and then his ultimate. And in that quarter second before using his ultimate, Yellow Star blew him backwards, which was kind of killed the Immortals initiation. He still got a lot of damage off in the choke though. This is the big play by Svensker and dancing around to stop Wild Turtle's DPS more than just reposition him in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, he makes him play so scared. He lands the Q on him, waits till the last second, then goes in as Wild Turtle commits, think he's not going to take it, kicks him in, dances back out, ward hopping around, playing so brilliantly in these team fights that it's not easy to do. They played it to the knife edge, very, very close, but TSM comes up huge in that fight. And with, more and more items coming in for them, Bloodthirster now done for Wild Turtle on top of the QSS and the Bork. Going to be so hard to take out this Glista. And it's kind of that timer in these fights as those spears are stacking, you're getting closer and closer to that Rend.
We haven't even talked about Bjergsen, who's the kill leader on TSM, with an incredibly aggressive build right here. Bloodthirster will be his defensive item when he gets it. Doesn't go for a QSS because he has the cleanse. He would be a potential burst target, but he has been so safe in these team fights, and the damage has been out of control. Oh, Huni takes so much poke.
Yeah, it's definitely been incredible here watching Bjergsen do a ton of work here in the series. Maokai split pushing in the bot lane. Teleport is up, but he's not wearing a Baron buff, so it's not the fastest push, but no one's defending him.
And this could be the breaking point in the series, right? Bjergsen and Doublelift are performing, but they were the top performing members of the team throughout the regular season. Yeah. It's Svenskeren and Hansar that are winning this series for TSM because they are performing so much better than their expected matchup. When you're thinking of the best dynamic duo in the league with Reignover and Huni for multiple splits, and it's been Svenskeren and Hansar beating them potentially 3 games in a row.
Impressively so. Looking for the 3-0 is TSM. Now the root's going to land. Svenskeren down at half HP. This could be a decent fight, but of course Baron buff is still on 3 members for another minute. Immortals need to get something
Teleport
working.
in behind from Pobelter.
Looking for the play, looking for the hard engage. What can they even find? Hansar pops ulti. Immortals can wait it out and re-engage when that does time out. When will they go in? Do they even have the ability to do so? Dragon 4 spawns, TSM running towards it.
Yeah, and Hansar stepping back in front, popping the ulti more than enough to ward Immortals away. They know they don't want to engage through that. They don't have the ability to do it. And, you know, look across the board at the score lines here. TSM, this has been a complete team effort. Everyone is contributing this game. And what better way to look to close out a series than with every single member on your team playing well?
Definitely beautiful stuff there. Dragon 4 means there's a 6-minute timer on getting that 5th buff and having an easier way than getting another Baron to try to close this game out here. TSM could keep the streak alive, and who would have thought that a team that ended the regular season in 6th place with a 9-9 record, worse than TSM has ever done in North America. The unexpected upset win over Cloud9, the 3rd seed. Now, coming into an unexpected, huge upset potential win over Immortals.
And this is the crazy thing. This is actually the first split in the LCS where there's been dynamic reseeding. So in past years, if they beat the 3 seed, they would play the 2 seed in the semifinals because that's how the bracket was set up. But now, the lowest seed always plays the highest seed if both teams win. So they have to go through the 3 seed and then the 1 seed in order to get to the finals, which makes it all the more impressive.
The hardest possible route.
And a bit of an impressive stat is the 4,000 goldies all on
Oh, it's another
Here
fight.
we go.
Double
They're gonna go! They got double lift! That's a huge steal! Reignover stays alive. Immortals in a 5 versus 4 team fight, but it's gonna be Reignover getting shields, trying to stay alive, and he does so. Adrian keeps him up. Now the re-engage on a Hansar, who gets over the wall onto Huni, and Graves might be sent to his. No, he stays alive. More shields in, but now Reignover's reign is gonna be over. 2 more kills for TSM. Now the curtain call, hoping to make it just that for TSM. Yellow running away, but he sniped one off, and the damage is coming through. The W snipe only hitting onto Bjergsen. It's a 2-for-2 kill spread so far.
That was a flash Karma E. They want to keep chasing this. Will he be able to? Oh, look at the damage coming back from Bjergsen. Huni has to be careful.
Oh, wow. Huni nearly gets chunked out. Bjergsen with a 70% crit chance build does ridiculous damage with our auto attack Trinity Force spikes. 2 of those nearly took down Huni. Has to respect that.
Yeah, wow.
I want to see the damage dealt to champions in that team fight because Doublelift, well, we'll have time to pull the stat.
Yeah.
Because Doublelift died right at the start of that one, and he did QSS the Lysandre ultimate, but then he was still in range for all of the damage that Pobelter put down on him.
He was just completely split from the rest of his team. So, you know, even though he did have that QSS, he's still going to get taken out. You know, the QSS gets you out of the CC, does not protect you from the follow-up damage. But Bjergsen coming up huge for TSM, I have to say, in that fight. The fact that he's so fed and he has, you know, a 4,000 plus gold lead on his laner allowed him to put out the damage for effectively 2 people and keep them alive in that fight.
And that's what I love about sort of the Corki builds is people sort of identify the correct choice. I love the build used to actually be like Triforce, Essence Reaver, like I have max CDR rockets, I'm so cool. But now people are realizing like, yeah, you go into like Rapid Fire Cannon 3rd with Infinity Edge 2nd. It's a 70% crit chance marksman. Like that's legitimately just high damage in general. And you buy the Sork Shoes, that's a fine, you know, it's a fine item as well because you still do plenty of magic damage with your auto attacks. And it means that Bjergsen is scarily effective. 408 minion kills in a 38.5-minute game. Like he's farming, he's getting kills, and he's trying to hard carry.
And Huni's also trying really hard to get back in this game.
Yeah.
He's going to be going for an Infinity Edge next, which is more of what got them here, right? Huni has been able to carry a lot of games, but he has also been one of the worst performers on Immortals throughout this series, and he's putting himself in a position where it's going to be feast or famine. He's either going to have a great fight where he gets the 10 bullets, which is what you get, 10 pellets if you Infinity Edge crit as Graves, insane damage and lifesteal, or he's in the wrong spot and he gets blown up by Bjergsen.
And I mean, both the ADs on Immortals are still very, very farmed. If you look at the CS advantages, Wild Turtle 70 up on Double Lift and Huni over 100 CS up on Haunter. So these guys are still very, very powerful. They may not be getting all the kills, but they have a huge amount of farm.
And we're going to get ourselves back into the game in a second. The unpause order has come through. Both teams are ready. We'll be back into this one. Sven Skaron had pausing. He was getting FPS drops, restarted his game client. He's back in, and the teams are ready to go back into this one. Kalista has picked up Mortal Reminder to cut through all the self-healing that Huni, Rainover, and Co. can all do. I think it's a very smart choice. It's an underpot item, and smart of Doublelift to grab it here.
Mortal Reminder on both sides, too. Doublelift has got a lot of lifesteal on Kalista, and that's huge with the Janna shield. So.
Yep. Yeah, Wild Turtle got his own Mortal Reminder. It's Lord Dominic for Huni, but at least a proper split there. We can see, the early catch, W into ulti, and the crit coming through from Wild Turtle.
The Glacial Path is actually the highest damage normal ability for Lysandra, so the fact that that hit Doublelift was very crucial. And then the rest of the fight was super interesting because Huni teleports in on the backside and doesn't get that much done, really. Haunter CCs him down, Huni almost dies and then has to go out of the fight. So all the while, Haunter is tanking all of the Jhin shots for Bjergsen and allows Bjergsen to get the most damage out as possible. It's really when this Fate's Call comes in and Wild Turtle gets the snipe onto Sven right at the last step, essentially, before he can get out.
Yeah, really impressive stuff there. And then, Huni, his Ma got popped a while ago, and Adrian's like, yes, we can get this, chase him down, but just not the case. Keep in mind, these guys are running away with a Janna. Like, they all get bonus move speed.
And that was so close to being another kill there for Bjergsen.
Yeah, super, super, super close right there.
He had Flash. He could have gone in for the kill, but then he probably would have died to Wild Turtle, who was right behind.
Yeah, it's just not worth the risk, especially when you've already lost.
Look at that damage in the team fight. 8,500 by Bjergsen. And 7,500 by Wild Turtle.
Yeah.
Former teammates. It used to be Turtle and Bjergsen would turn it on in playoffs, and then TSM would win. Turtle trying his best to stop TSM's streak.
To be fair, this still could be Turtle and Bjergsen turning it on in playoffs and TSM winning. Here's
Haunter on the backside.
And looking for the play right there. Good knockback, and that's going to be Karma gone. Adrian is dead. Now the 5v4 in TSM's favor. A knockup, and again, on to Rainover. 2 kills for TSM. Minute and a half roughly on Dragon. Baron's up in 15. It'd be a 5v3 to try it.
That is absolutely huge. They still had deep wards from the last time they were in Immortals jungle, and they just pulled the trigger on a play. Such a good proactive play from TSM, not waiting to react to Immortals. And Baron's up in 2 seconds. 5v3. This is TSM's to take.
Yeah.
Gonna go.
I don't think Immortals have any business even trying to contest this, and my guess is they won't, as they are just going to kind of ping towards mid lane and just try to get something done, but pretty huge for TSM here.
I think the only play Immortals can make is shove mid then ward for Dragon. This TP flank is so sick, though. Haunter's there, and he chooses to go for Adrian, not for Turtle, knowing it's an available target.
I think that's really smart. Oftentimes, a Maokai will tunnel on the squishy target, but not remember where his team is. And Haunter is the story of a team player in this series. He's been the full tank. Everyone is supporting him going in 1-1-13. Massive Maokai yet again. And it was the right target to go for, going for the people that were caught between him and his team.
And that's the kind of dream scoreline you actually want on a Maokai. You don't want to get the kills. If you're trying to win, you want the kills to go to your carries, which is exactly where they have been going. As Bjergsen is racked up 8, and we have 6 on Double Lift.
All right, well, another quick pause coming through. You saw TSM trying to slow push that lane. It was Bjergsen last hitting as late as he possibly could, and hoping that they could ride a double wave in the longer they take. And they can use that to push in for mid lane inhibitor turret itself. They can also turn around in 30 seconds and go for Dragon 5. That will coincide with the Baron buff, so TSM will have all the globals soon.
That's a big thing, and these pauses are timed at a very strange moment in the game because FPS drops complained about by Bjergsen, so they were going to be restarting his client as well. 37 seconds to that Dragon. 5th Dragon, that would be for TSM. They have the Baron buff. They're already up 2-0 in the series. They can't communicate strategy about this pause, but you know everyone on Immortals and everyone on TSM needs to be calming themselves down as much as possible and thinking about their next move.
Yeah, and I think that next move has to be contesting the 5th Dragon. I think that if you give up 5th Dragon, that's almost certainly going to be the last nail in the coffin. So, it becomes this thing where it's kind of this inevitability for Immortals where they have to go for this fight. And TSM, as long as they get up the wards, they get proper vision, they set up their battle lines, it's going to be pretty tough for Immortals to actually get something done in that fight.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's going to be tough stuff, I think, coming through soon. There'd be about a minute and a half of overlap of Dragon 5 plus Baron buff. That's how long they'd have it for, and assuming they kill the Dragon right away. And that's 3 waves of we are so much more powerful than you are. And you have to weigh that difficulty of getting sieged with that kind of buff versus playing an open field fight against a team with a 6,000 gold and a Baron buff in the first place.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about Dragon 5, any sort of poke puts a huge burn on you. That's Maokai Sapling, that's Corki Rocket, that's anything.
Yeah, and we need to think about the setup for this as well. There's no teleport on Pobelter, so it will be hard for them to get in. But also, TSM can set up a pretty strong amount of poke just on the outside of this turret, so maybe they try and just rush the Dragon if Immortals is too far back in the base and get it before they can come in. So Immortals doesn't have time to set up an ideal initiation, and they can't get a good TP flank off.
They can Death Rush as well. If they didn't get ward control, if Immortals didn't get ward control, TSM could be waiting at any single brush or rushing the Dragon down. Immortals are able to slink forward now. They see where Hanser is. They've got Huni on the wings, and they're trying to fight before the Dragon goes down. A quick root on a Spencer.
On the Dragon right
shield
now.
in. Yeah, Dragon's being attempted here, and it's going to be the chance of a steal. Can they get it? That answer is likely to be no. There is the Dragon picked up. Here's the re-engage. Maokai into the front line. This could be the finals for TSM. Svensker has killed off Pobelter. Hanser staying alive in the back line. The re-engage for TSM. They're looking to close the series out. Bjergsen takes down Wild Turtle. It's a 5v3 with Baron and Dragon 5 and TSM chance of the audience.
Who could have thought that TSM would 3-0 as the 6th seed coming into this against Immortals? People were saying they were going to be better than you expected, but this good? 3-0 against Immortals, and they're looking for the win.
Looking for it right now. Mid lane inhibitor is gone. Solo mid looking for their 7th straight North American LCS finals, and against who else but the team that beat them last, Counter Logic Gaming. The Nexus turrets are falling. All 5 members are alive, and all 5 of them deserve this one. An incredibly played series by TSM as they pick up the last few kills. They take down the Nexus, and TSM are heading to the finals.
Can you believe it? On the back of a 3-0, no one was saying that TSM would win this, let alone in a clean sweep over Immortals, who were 17-1 in the regular season. Just absolutely incredible play from TSM. So impressed by them. Bjergsen coming up huge in the final game, their superstar, but it was Hanser, it was Svensker, and it was Yellow Star. These guys playing so much better in the regular season, coming up huge.
What a shocking result. And it gives us what would be the least shocking final, a TSM versus CLG, but based on the context, it's really hard to believe. This is the first time Huni and Reignover will not be making the finals, and the former teammates who did have the perfect split with Fnatic in the summer exchange hugs after that one, but
and then the
unreal.
lift up. Reginald definitely very happy about his team. I got to talk to him before the series, and he said 55% chance we win 3-1, which is like the least confident I've ever heard Reginald about anything. And a very impressive 3-0. TSM went 3-6 in the last 9 games. They were the joke of playoff teams coming into this.
And they have won 6 of their
straight.
7 playoff games with 6 straight.
I mean, this is the 6th place team.
A lot of 6s.
From the
Not
regular
more.
play.
Number the beast.
Coming in, yeah. And I mean, able to absolutely dismantle Immortals. You know, teams had talked about Immortals' weaknesses, about these tendencies that you can pick on, but no one had been able to show it yet. And now TSM finally has exposed them on the big stage.
It was hard to see it actually happening because when you're looking at Immortals' season as a 17-1 team, yes, they were making these like some of the most memorable moments. Wild Turtle, the 1v4 on Callista. You're thinking, what's an AD carry doing inside 4 people? And you're like, that would be really bad if they weren't ahead by 10,000 gold.
Yeah.
But they always were. So there was this assumption that they would be able to play from behind and without a snowball lead and from multiple positions. But what was shown in this series on this day is when they could not get top line priority for Huni, the other guys weren't able to step up big enough to come out on top.
Yeah, and it was just an overall great game by the team. Svenskeren, the last game of the series, 3-1-14. He had a great Lee Sin game at the very end. They picked for him last to make sure he could make some plays that worked well. And as we continue to talk about the game, I want to pull up a replay of the final team fight there. And it was Immortal saying, yes, we have to fight for that Dragon 5.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see Haunter just zoning them out on the backside as Doublelift is stacking the spears. Svenskeren knows that Rainover is going to try something.
So he's ready with the kick.
As soon as he flashes in, there's the kick. That is huge. They secure Dragon 5, and now they're all in. They know this is not a fight that Immortals can win into Dragon 5.
Yeah, Rainover actually smited on the way out as a desperation try, but he smited it a little bit too high. And Haunter just shows how hard it was to kill him there. Once again, 350 armor, and the Lysandra burst is never going to be used onto him. So he is just as efficiently itemized, maybe even more so than he was against the triple marksman team, just because he's not going to be taking Lysandra damage.
Yeah.
Maokai is huge. Echo was gone for some reason in this series. I'm sure there'll be a lot of pick and ban retro for even TSM in this last game. I don't think their composition was fully ideal, but just a shocking result. You got to take a bit to digest that one.
Yeah, you're going to have to take a bit, and we're going to hear some more about that digestion because for some words on their season and the chance of the third place match, check in with Riv, who's standing by with Immortals mid laner.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I am joined by Pobelter after their very tough matchup in the semifinals versus Team Solo Mid. I have to ask you, coming off the bat, Pobelter, are there any kind of initial thoughts going into the game and now after the game?
Well, I think that TSM improved a lot, and they played a lot better than I had expected them to. So, props to them on that. They came in way stronger than I think anyone was expecting, actually. Besides that, I don't know, it just felt pretty hard to face up against them. I think maybe our read on the meta was wrong. We kept trying to pick damage dealers against all their tanks, and then didn't really feel like it was working out. Whether it was up to execution or whether our theory on it was wrong, I don't know. We'll have to discuss it, but yeah.
Well, it still looked quite strong, even when you had leads in that game. So was there anything you can kind of pinpoint that stopped you guys from getting your foot through the door? Or was TSM just they had your number?
I think they had pretty good disengage in most of the games. Actually, well, that last game, it was pretty hard to kind of find an engagement on them, which is what you want to do as Lysandra. And then it felt like we couldn't really peel back and fight either because Maokai was not killable. Yeah, wow, it was just tough. My brain's kind of frazzled right now.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people are kind of wowed by the results of that matchup. I do have to say, final question for you, though. You guys had one of the most dominant splits we've seen in a spring split in the NALCS. Are you guys going to return next year and do even better than that, or is this an easy experience to learn from?
Yeah, sure, I can hope that we'll do better than what we showed this year. Sure, we had the 17-1 regular season, but it doesn't matter if you fall out in the semifinals. Probably everyone's really crushed right now after having such a dominant regular season, and now we don't even make it to the finals. But yeah, we'll probably have to do some reflection, pinpoint the mistakes we made.
All right, Pobelter, thank you very much for the interview. I'm sure the fans are very much pleased to still see you guys head over to Vegas and play for that third, fourth match. Now we are going to toss it over to the analyst desk to break down the rest of the day.
Don't feed.
Thank you very much, Rivington. I'm here with 3 of the victorious members of Team Solo Mid, Svenskeren, Doublelift, and Bjergsen. First off, congratulations, guys, on a commanding 3-0 victory over Immortals. And that's where I have to start, is that would have to say the larger population did not expect a 3-0 victory. If TSM was going to win, that it wasn't going to happen in 3 games. So, Bjergsen, we saw a dominating performance over C9 in the last 3 games of that series. How confident were you guys coming into this Immortals series that you could 3-0 them?
We built up a lot of confidence going into C9, and I would say that me personally, I was a little bit less confident, but I was still pretty confident in my team's ability to beat them. And after the first game, when we came back, I think it just really proved to everyone that even though we can play a bad early game, we can make a lot of mistakes, we can win any game. And that just made us play so much better in the other games.
22-20 was your score line there against Immortals, so fabulous play out of you. Doublelift, coming to you. I did ask you following the C9 series how exactly TSM came together in the 2 weeks that you had off, but here now you've put down the 17-1 Immortals from the regular season. That's just another tier up. So what was it in particular that you guys worked on going into this series against the first place Immortals?
I think we just focus on the aspects that are most important to us, and especially right now in this meta, it's pretty much all about shot calling, the right lane allocation, and just like teamwork, team play, and team fighting. Like, for example, even yesterday, CLG versus TL, all the rotations just kind of like ended up being like, whatever, let's just team fight 5 times in a row. And that's exactly how we won against Immortals too. We just out team fought them. So we really, really tunneled on that. And I think it was definitely like a great like harvest, I guess, of our work.
Sven, last time I spoke to Bjergsen, he mentioned that the two of you had been working greatly on your synergy, and that showcased both in the game against C9, but also today. For you in particular, though, as an individual, received some criticism and flack throughout the season as being one of the underperforming members on the team. Here, though, you step up and you put down the MVP of the league in Reignover. I mean, absolutely schooled him in the jungle through all 3 games. So for you as an individual, what was the journey like between the regular season and the playoffs?
I just feel like the regular split, we just didn't fit together as much as a team. But since the energy lost, then everyone like really thought about what to do and how to improve as a team, and we just came together. And beating Reignover, I think he's really good, but the meta right now is more favored towards me, kind of, because Tank's top is really good, and stuff like Nidalee and Graves jungle can actually work. So he's really good on Rek'Sai and Gragas, which I'm not as good on. So I think the meta just favors us right now.
Well, speaking of meta, right, we saw in Game 1 kind of an insane composition come out of Immortals. We saw the triple AD carry, but it's not a triple AD carry comp that we've seen prior. We had the Lucian top. There was no Kindred or Graves to be found on their side of the map. So Bjergsen, when that comes out in Game 1 of a best-of-5 series, one, did it throw you for a loop, and how did you guys identify the way to play around that composition?
It's definitely difficult because you see these AD carries, you don't know which is going where. I see Huni playing Corki, Lucian top, all these different kinds of champions. But I think it was really just about playing team fights and locking down one of these AD carries in every single team fight, and we can just always blow one of them up. And once we blow one up, they basically become a 2-threat comp, and our Maokai will just out-tank them. So it was really looking for the right engages and identifying what does this strange comp that they build do? It pushes towers really well, and what does our comp do against theirs?
Yeah, Haunts are coming up big, playing Maokai and Poppy. Those tanks, as you mentioned, being so important in the top lane. Couldn't help but notice, though, that Echo was absent from the series. Doublelift, I'm going to turn to you on that one. I mean, where does TSM think that Echo falls into the power rankings, given the fact that it seems like the rest of the world is willing to first pick that champion?
I think, like, just depending on the team comp, we think Echo's like pretty good, but if you need hard CC, then things like Maokai and Poppy are better because Echo's W is kind of like situational, and he kind of needs setup for it, and he's more of like a dive in the backline sort of champ. Yeah, I'm surprised Tuni didn't pick it. I honestly think it's kind of embarrassing that he just can't play Tank's top. Like, first game he played Lucian, I kind of thought he was trolling, and then after that when he just kept playing carries, it was just like really strange. So I think, like Dennis just said, or like Sven just said, the meta kind of favors us, and it's obviously a tank top meta, but Huni just like could not play it.
Speaking of which, Huni did have a lot of difficulty in the series today, and in our opening feature of the day, Double F, we heard you say that the key to beating Immortals was going to be to beat them in one game, and then they would tilt. I mean, you did just that in Game 1, but, there's some sentiment around, well, that was just more of the tilt meme. But then at the same time, that's exactly what happened. So how exactly did you guys identify the strengths and weaknesses of Immortals and the right areas to attack going into this series?
They're pretty one-dimensional. So Huni just like refuses to play tanks, and Reignover is basically just on initiation duty with like Rek'Sai and Gragas because of that. So it's kind of like a spiral effect. And then Adrian's champion pool is literally just like Karma, Janna, Soraka. So we kind of knew exactly like their bottom lane is just going to play only for lane, and if they don't like completely crush lane, then they're useless. And Pobelter's just like a wave clearing mid laner who plays like pretty standard and consistent, like steady. So I think they're a very kind of easy team to read from the get-go. Yeah.
Now, Sven, you as a team having that 6th seed going into playoffs, given the fact that this is the first split we've done dynamic seeding, it meant that you had to play through the 3rd seed Cloud9 and now the 1st seed Immortal. So arguably the toughest road to the finals of any team, and yet you've done it. Talk to me a little bit about what this means then for the team and the morale as you move forward and look at that finals against CLG in the playoffs.
Yeah, so having the toughest way to the finals didn't really bother me too much, because if we want to win the split, we have to beat the toughest opponents anyway, so just meeting them early on can give us a lot more confidence going into the finals. And going into the finals, I think we should be very confident, and I think we can beat CLG.
Speaking of the finals and speaking of CLG, Double Lift, back to you. You were on CLG winning the finals last split. Here you are on TSM against CLG to try and take that title back. What is your confidence level against this team, having watched them play yesterday?
Oh yeah, I know them pretty well. I think it's TSM versus CLG is a double-sided matchup, so I'm pretty confident.
There you go. Yeah, whichever team Double Lift side gonna have the confidence there. Bjergsen, we've heard from you that the team, has aspirations, of course, beyond just winning the NALCS. You're looking at MSI, looking at international play, as you always are. Considering that you do win the finals and you move on to MSI, what are the big goals and aspirations there, and how do you expect to do?
Well, of course we have big goals, but we're just going to focus on ourselves and our own performance because we improved so much in these last 3 weeks. And if we can keep that improvement up all the way up to MSI, I believe we can perform really well. We definitely still have a lot of things to work on leading up to playing against the best teams in the world. But with how our practice is going, I feel confident going into the final, and I think we can also do well internationally.
Well, a 6-1 record so far in the playoffs here in the spring split speaks to the improvements that you guys have made between the regular season and the playoffs. Congratulations once again on the victory today. Can't wait to see you guys in the finals. Now, though, it's time to recap the series, so let's check back in with the caster desk.
Thank you very much, Dash. Man, this was absolutely incredible. Just this series was so much fun to watch. TSM turning it on so strong. It was really incredible watching them finally come together. The team that they were supposed to be the whole time.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think there's a lot to what Double has said about Huni's champion pool. Like, this is very clearly a tank meta, and the question would be, why not just play the tank carries like the Echo? There's so many questions coming into what their champion select choices were.
To be fair, though, I don't think it's fair to say that he can't play them because he's already shown they can play Echo, right? He just has to play Echo and build differently. So to me, if there's a question, it's more just like, is this just like an ego thing? Is it like a stubbornness thing? It's like, hey, well, like that's what they're playing. I'm going to play it my way and win.
That's what Pabalter said in the interview with Rivington. Is he said, look, we came in with our ideas, what we thought was good. Yeah. Right? We thought that Graves top was good, that Lucian top was good. And game one, like if every game went like the first 20 minutes of game one, you'd be like, you're right, absolutely. A bunch of first one-item spiking marksmen, push a turret down, 7,000 gold lead, 22-minute Baron, win the game. That entire series could have looked like that 3 games in a row. And Pabalter was like, I don't know if it's execution or if we were just wrong. Maybe they are just wrong. Maybe it was actually the wrong champ select, but they nearly just dominated every single game.
We see it, exactly. We see it in the 3-0, but like you said, 2 games, there was a pretty big early game to mid-game lead for Immortals, and TSM just out-team-fought them. But that is something that happens when you bring teamfight comps with big giant tanks.
Absolutely true. And the fragility, that's a really big deal, right? If you instant lose to a Maokai TP flank, you can't go past 25 minutes, or you lose to a Maokai TP flank.
Yeah, I mean, it gets really rough, and it can be hard to remember just how close to victory they were. I mean, in the first game, they were actually ridiculously close, and I think that it was kind of that death brush that TSM set up in the bot lane where they got 3 kills when Immortals had like a 7,000 gold lead and Baron on 5 members. And had that not happened, and had Immortals been able to knock down a couple more turrets, take an inhibitor or 2 on that push, that could have sealed the game, right? And this could look very, very different. If you do win with that triple AD carry setup in game 1, do you maybe just play that again, and hey, maybe it works again, So there can be very, very fine lines in these series, which are completely series defining. And I think that death brush that Yellowstar and then set up was one of them.
Yeah, we knew that the NA playoffs, this split, were going to be really, really competitive. Predicting the semifinals, almost impossible. You predicted the 5-game COG game. Oh, not too bad. But now, did you predict your TSM COG final? Was that in the script?
Maybe. No, I will neither confirm nor deny that, as I was not on the analyst desk and it was not recorded, Jet.
I didn't predict either.
Yeah, exactly.
TSM, easy. But a big thing in that game was just the jungle control as well from Sven Skaren. We mentioned during one of the games that there were 12 jungle buffs stolen from Immortals in all of the regular season. In this series alone, Immortals lost 12 blue and red buffs if you combine them. So 18 games versus 3 games, and they had never been pressured like that this year.
Yeah, and what it sets up for is a really exciting midseason, or actually road to the midseason invitational, but also NALCS final.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of whether TSM or Counterlogic Gaming wins, I'm going to be like super excited, super proud of whichever team won in NA, because we actually have, I think, 4 to 5 really, really, really good teams in North America. The teams that made the final super deserved it, right? CLG in 5 over Liquid was a really big deal. TSM's road 3-win over C9, 3 over Immortals, super huge. These teams are in top shape. The one that goes is going to be, I think, a very strong team, one that NA fans can be excited to back and watch them in that tournament.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very complete-looking TSM. I'm actually much happier to see them win this way than to just see, not that Bjergsen didn't go off, but to then just see Bjergsen solo carry or double solo carry. That's something that we've seen before, and we'll see again. But to see, the whole team really stepping up, Svenskeren, Haunter, Yellowstar, the three kind of question marks from the regular season all played as well or above their teammates all across the series. And I think Svenskeren especially, when we talked about league MVPs, right? Everyone's just like, rain over, right? This guy's godlike. He's just always in the right place. You can't beat him. And Svenskeren never once shied away from him. In every single game, he's aggressively invading. He's bringing the fight to him. He's mechanically outplaying and flashing over the body slam as Nidalee. He was doing everything right, and I was so impressed with Svenskeren in the series.
Reignover's regular season MVP absolutely deserved, but he just couldn't carry that performance through, and Svenskeren outplayed him this series.
So massive plays by TSM and a well-deserved 3-0 semifinal victory, and now we're going to head back to Dash and the analysts to close out the weekend.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. 3-0 victory for TSM. I've got to say how ye of little faith, both of you, with your Immortals picks.
I predicted 3-0. I'm still going to make it by 4 o'clock.
Yeah, that's right. With
and
gym
I guarantee you I'm going to do more training in that hour than Immortals did in the last few weeks.
Ooh, all right, okay. So let's dive into this a little bit, Zyrene. Expand then on give me your final thoughts on this series and why it is that Immortals wasn't able to put up as big of a fight.
So they still stuck with the whole tank jungler have some type of damaged top laner, whereas damaged top laners eventually get outscaled by the tanks more often than not, especially the tanks in the meta right now with Iceborne Gauntlet and Sunfire Cape the way they are. Incredible high damage tanks, which usually shouldn't be happening, but in the meta, that's how it is.
Right.
And then in the jungle, you usually have a Kindred, you usually have a Graves, Nidalee, something that is your third threat. And TSM did that. TSM were able to execute on that. And then on the other side, Immortals, they looked like they were behind. They talked about how they were practicing things. They were already practicing for MSI.
Yeah.
Like, they're looking too far ahead at that point and bragging a little bit. And also, when you're already first place and you know you're first place during the regular season, and then you talk about how you have all these picks, all these gigantic champion pools, it's like, well, it didn't show any flexibility here. It just showed that they had more of the same. And Wild Turtle on Jhin, it looked like he was trying to adapt, but Jhin right now in these compositions and with Wild Turtle playing it, he just didn't seem as proficient on it as you would like a Jhin player to be.
Yeah, I know. So we have some frustrations regarding the way that Immortals prepped and came into the series and then how they adjusted throughout. Let's talk a little bit, Loco, about TSM and what they did correctly. I mean, I had the opportunity to interview 3 of the players, and they spoke a lot about, getting to a place that mentally they could all be on par with each other. They identified strengths and weaknesses in the team, and Sven, of course, stepping up. But for you, what was the biggest factor in a TSM victory today? I
mean, Sven stepping up was huge, and Haunter's the best tank player right now, along with Sam. And I think Haunter played tanks incredibly well. Like, at the end, he's just an unkillable tank bot, and then it doesn't matter how many DPSers you have. You don't have a tank, you don't have enough utility, you're not going to win. And touching back a little bit on Immortals, I don't think their prep was terrible. The first game, the prep was pretty garbage. Like, Lucian top, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
It's not terrible, but it's garbage. No.
Game 1. Game 2, I know you had said that Game 2 you really liked their draft.
Yeah.
It was an execution issue.
GP Gragas, I thought were completely fine. GP is a carry top, Gragas is a tank jungle, but they're still very in meta. These aren't like champions they pulled from like, oh, I just want to play these. Yeah. These are good champions in the meta. And third game, like Graves is still, I think, a decent enough champion. It's just Huni was so uncoordinated with the rest of his team throughout the whole set, where Huni would be dying solo, or there would be a 4v4 or a 4v5 fight, and Huni won't teleport until later. Like, that's one of Huni's biggest strengths. Like, he's always there first. He teleports at the perfect times. He gets the perfect flanks, and we just didn't see that today from Huni.
And what I was seeing from the champion pools, like you're talking about Gragas and Gangplank, this is the workaround when you haven't adapted. So you're being like, okay, we're kind of cheating it. We are going to be able to have it tank, and we're also going to have a damage top laner. But the reason the meta is the way that it is right now is because when you have that damage dealer in the jungle, it's just so effective. It's so good, especially the ones that are in meta, and you get the pressure. Like, Svenskeren was showing up at all of the buffs and taking them from Reignover, and they were able to collapse on those sides. And I think that that's what really stepped up for Svenskeren was his champion pool was just way more in the meta than Reignovers at the moment. And Reignovers being pretty stubborn with the picks that he was going with.
3 solid performances from TSM today. Plenty of killer performances from individuals today, but only one man can earn the title of Player of the Series, and today, that is Sven Skjern. TSM's jungler was instrumental in their sweep against Immortals, keeping the pressure up against Reignover all series, including a massive Nidalee performance in Game 2.
Just running him all around the map. Reignover, he was just getting all these kills and picking people off, and he even had a fantastic performance in their quarterfinal. So if he's able to keep this performance up coming into Smithy on CLG in the finals, I want to see what he's able to do, because they're going to compete over champions at this point. They both have not even a similar style, but they're both very adaptive. They're able to go for the farm if they need to and have that heavy farm jungler, or they can just be like, okay, I can play to this lane or that lane, and he showed versatility in the lanes that he's able to actually play towards. It's not just one style.
Yeah, he showed versatility in his champion pool as well. He played 3 unique champions today. We didn't even see the Kindred because it was banned out. So he's very much in meta and been a solid performer throughout the playoffs for TSM so far. Now, before we go, let's take a look at our complete playoff bracket. Our top 4 teams are all headed to Sin City next weekend, and you can't script this any better, folks. Rivals TSM and Counterlogic Gaming will once again face off for the championship title, which means that Liquid and Immortals will be playing for 3rd place. Let's start with that matchup since we've got you on the desk, Loco Doco. Liquid versus Immortals. You weren't expecting this based on your prediction today. So what are your thoughts now about that series?
Oh, versus Immortals?
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident going into it. I feel like our team, we took the loss really well. We talked about what we did wrong, and everyone really came together, and we're like, no, we're still going to stick as a team. We're going to review this together. We're not going to put blame on other people, and we're going to come out stronger. And I'm questioning if Immortals can do the same and seeing how much they can adapt, because they've shown that they didn't take these 3 weeks to adapt. They took these 3 weeks, and we're 17-1. We don't need to adapt. We're going to do what we do best, and it didn't work out. So it's going to depend on what they do in the next week, but I feel pretty confident going into it.
Maybe they were a little lax during those few weeks and not preparing to the best of the ability that they had, but I think that they're going to be angry now. I think that because of these losses and the humiliation associated with it, because it's a 3-0 sweep by TSM, 1st seed versus 6th seed, you thought you had it in the bag. You were not expecting this outcome at all.
Right.
You got crushed. They're going to go back to the drawing board. I think Echo is something that they're going to pick up very quickly, and I think they're going to start rounding their compositions out with that and say, we need to play these things now, and we need to learn to adapt in the future if they want to stand a chance at going to Worlds in the summer.
Yeah, it'll be time to buckle down for them, but there should be plenty of confidence coming out of Team Liquid with a very close 3-2 series against CLG, which brings me to our final matchup, CLG versus TSM. Now that we've had an opportunity to see both of these teams play this weekend, thoughts on that matchup and how it might play out?
For me, I think someone that's going to be really crucial is Stixxay. I feel like Stixxay didn't have the best series versus us, and out of all 10 players, Stixxay is probably the most questionable one. If he can step it up, I think it's going to be a very, very even series. Jungle matchup pretty even. Mid matchup, I would say, is a bit tilted towards Bjerg. Support, probably way tilted towards Afro, and then top is even or tilted towards Hanser.
Okay. Yep. All right. And what about you, Zyrene? Pretty much agreement across the board?
I agree. Bjergsen tilted over Huhi, and then Stixxay is the one that you have to watch. And Double said it's a double-sided matchup. He's going up against Afromu. So in the finals, he's playing against his former lane opponent, or lane partner, so you actually might have more information on the guy, but they have it about each other, so we'll end up seeing what happens. I'm really excited for that.
Either way, 2 very exciting series left to play out, and as we move forward to Las Vegas and the Spring Championship Finals, we'll be revisiting some of the epic moments from the 2016 season. Now, we've got a few goodies for you today. Our first from Little Vic Comte. My favorite moment was when the game was in the game when GBM stole 2 Barons. Just insane how he could do that once, let alone twice in one game. Here you go.
Take it before it wears off. The Q's off. He goes in. That's going to be the laser steal from GBM. Baron gets taken by NRG. Oh, who does he stop?
Can he save it?
There's people everywhere around him.
Are you kidding me?
So I talked to GBM about this moment, and he was like, I'm really confident we can steal this Baron. He's like, okay, we're going to go in at 1.5K, and then you're just going to burst. Trust me to steal it. Go, 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 go. And then they got it.
I mean, that's insane that you have that being a non-Smite champion. Granted, Victor has a ton of bursts, but making that your game plan, right? I mean, I think it was week 7 or so when Kobe and I were looking at the Team Liquid Energy game, and we're like, the one way that Energy wins this is if they can get a couple Baron steals.
And Moon got it. So it's not a reliable strategy.
No.
But it's a strategy.
If it works, it works, my friend. A W's a W, right? Anyway, our next moment comes from Prat Vikita, whose favorite moment was the Immortals' perfect game versus Team Impulse in the first week.
And this was a game that ended up setting a record for fastest in NALCS history. And Immortals were able to just come out of the gate. This was really early on in the split as well. And look back right now, and yeah, that was week 1. That was the second game that they had played, and the hype around this team was very real, and they kept it up until the very end of the season, and now they find themselves without that same type of performance. But this was a crushing game. It was so good to watch these players, especially when it was Wild Turtle coming back in after being benched, and you also had Pobelter, who wasn't going to be a starter for CLG, come in and just have an absolutely outstanding performance on this squad, and kind of get their fan bases back in order and be like, yes, we are still really good players, and we're here to deliver.
Yeah, that game set the tone for how Immortals would play for the remainder of the season, and for the most part, fell in line with what we were talking about, their strengths, which they tried to stick to here in the playoffs. Each split, though, has its unbelievable moments, and Laser Brownie remembered one from week 6. Quadruple execute in Dignitas versus Renegades. Here we go.
Just noticing they have the double TP. They open lanes up this far. They can make those plays if it comes to it.
Exactly. They have the double TP. They can open up the lane. Really? Oh my word. Take it to Kiwi!
Quick, take the turret so you get the gold back, right? Did they shut down the turret?
Oh. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Run!
Woo! He's mad! He's angry!
Wait a minute!
Oh my god!
Another! Wait! Oh my god!
Why would you turn back? Why would you turn back to hit the arrow? Loco, talk to me here.
I personally didn't watch the clip over and over again. I just heard about it, and now watching it like in detail, like Crumbs could have just ran straight. He had like the Rift Photo buff, and then he made a 90-degree turn for some reason, like trying to dodge Rift. I do not understand.
The eye opens up too, like halfway through it. So if Hakuo just stood there, maybe he would have been able to hit the eye and maybe execute it after there. But
man. So it's so tough to watch, but at the end of the day, I'm glad that it happened in the same game because it's almost inconsequential since both teams did something.
But there's a fun stat.
Okay.
Renegades actually ended up taking the most Rift Heralds out of any team in the NALCS, averaging 1.11 per game. So
but
they got their revenge.
There was the one that got away, though, Zyrene. There was the one that got away.
They went back and kicked that one's ass later. They were like, we remember
We're coming back, my friend. All righty. Well, thank you so much for sending in your response. We've got more moments headed your way, so stay tuned as we approach the finals next
wait, Dash. You forgot a tweet from Mac Myers, who pointed out that Dash's hair was incredible all throughout 2016.
Aww. Look at that.
This was that one look you had. Check yourself out.
But I have
sheen. Look at that sheen. Just, I wish I had Riv here because the play-by-play, the hands, the fingers going through the hair, the point itself, Dash on point.
It's not just me though. I can't take all the credit for that. I got to thank my stylist and my hairstylist and the stylist here.
And your mom and dad.
NALCS and my parents. Right? What the hell? That's ridiculous. Now I'm like looking at my hair in the monitor right now. Well, that's gonna do it for us today. I'd like to extend a very special thank you to Loco Doco for joining us on the analyst desk today. And now for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, and my hair. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next weekend.
Gaming's opponent in the finals. On towards Pobelter will not take the damage. And Reno!
Oh my god, he got right in front of him. Lucian. Gragas.
We win this. He's hexed. Peterson with another kill, and TSM are still running forward. The root in on a Gragas. Make that 3 in a row for TSM.
And they come from behind and take game 1. But that's big.
Look at the trap on Adrian. He's almost instantly going to go.
Body slam. What a play from Sven Skaren. But here goes Bjergsen.
In for the play. Deathmark is on. That's going to be getting the kill right there. Pop goes the Deathmark, looking for a second straight finals appearance on a different team.
And what is happening? We're one TSM win away from having another TSM COG final.
I'm not nervous anymore, guys. We're just going to win now.
Were you? It's actually going to be pretty funny when we reverse sweep.
It's a 5v4. Pavelter buying as much time as he can. It's going to be the root on a Svensker, but they're not going to get any more damage. Now Hans from the front lines nearly gets dropped down, but he's going to stay alive in this one.
Come on, Rick, again.
Kill the front, kill the front. Go, go, go.
Yeah, okay, guys. We're low.
Okay, we can go.
This could be the finals for TSM. Svensker has killed off Pavelter. Hans are staying alive in the back line. The re-engage for TSM. They're looking to close the series out. Bjergsen takes down Wild Turtle. An incredibly played series by TSM. They take